It's so funny. We're both stretching out like we're about to do something. All right. Well, welcome, Cody. It's so good to speak to you again.
You too, Korenna.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point in your artist circling journey, you're like at the halfway point.
Mhm.
We just finished a recent module that we call Deep Sea Diver, which is what is it, the third or fourth? Because the sovereign is kind of like the ground floor. So we want to call it a stage or not. Sovereign leads into explorer, explorer into warrior, warrior into deep sea diver. And so we are like, the fourth of the seven stages. So let's start there and talk about deep sea diver and like your understanding of it, and then like my favorite thing to talk to you guys about all the time is about how we are taking the tools and the skills from each of the seven stages, kind of like out of a formal circle and into everyday life, because I think that's the one of the things that is hardest for the students to like, oh, well, we practice in this like container and we practice in this kind of like, you know, mutual way that has a lot of shared context. Well, how do I do this with people who don't know about the circling approach or who aren't also learning? And like, how does that translate? And so I always love to give people examples of like how we can use these tools and skills, even with people who are not familiar with them.
Mm.
So let's start there and just see where it leads. Does that sound good for our check-in today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think so far Deep Sea Diver has been my absolute favorite of all of the stages. And I don't think it would have been my favorite at the very beginning. Like if you brought past Cody and you dropped him into like that weekend, I think he would have had a terrible time. You know, it would have not been a fun experience. It would have been very difficult and kind of painful to move through. But there is something about the whole process leading up to it where each of the stages really got to show up inside of the deep sea diver. And like you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, but the way I've been thinking about like what deep sea diver is, it's like there's like when you're in conversation with somebody, most of the time it's like you're like on a boat and you're very surface level and you're kind of, you're making small talk, like how are things going? And you're very above the surface.
Hmm.
But then every once in a while, and I think like most people have had that experience, like you have that really deep conversation with somebody like on a camp out or like under the stars or something like that. And
Hmm.
then the conversation just kind of drops into something deeper and bigger.
Yeah.
And deep sea divers like how to be once you drop, what do you do? Like what's it look like inside of there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and it's been spooky and it's been fun because like okay, so you go and you do sovereign, right? And it's like, okay, how do you sit with yourself and how do you really be with yourself in the right way so you're not getting lost in this other person? It's like I could feel that showing up. I
Mhm.
could feel the explorer showing up, right? Where it's like, okay, we're in new territory together. We're in this ocean that is your mind and your spirit, and we're gonna move around and explore and just see what's down here.
Yeah. And then the explorer, we're like asking clarifying questions, asking deepening questions, reflecting back, paraphrasing to make sure that we're like weaving shared reality, getting on the same page.
Yeah, yeah. And then the next would be warrior.
Mhm.
And so it's like holding that person in the difficult moments, like
Yeah.
maintaining that container,
Yeah.
kind of noticing all their dissonances and the questions that you have coming up and, making things just a little bit uncomfortable.
Which is
And
funny, like the tagline for Warrior is like seeing what hasn't been seen or hasn't been fully seen. So
yeah,
like I know I love that you pointed out the dissonances. Like so Warrior is where you're like the ooh, what's that? Like Warrior is where you would point out like when someone tries to change the subject, when something gets a little tender, or like when they pause or they yawn or they sigh. Like, oh, what was that? Like when you asked about, like you're talking about work and then you ask about a particular colleague or you ask about, a particular boss and they sigh and you're like, oh, what's that?
mm,
Where in a normal surfacey conversation, you might just let that go,
yeah. You
because
almost
you're
always would.
exchanging information, but you're not talking about what's happening between us in the moment.
Mm.
And so it's so like the stages all lead into each other. They are, so there's a reason there's an order, even though they kind of are fractal and jump around. And
Yeah,
so you're
yeah.
spot on of like, and deep sea diver is like the continuation of that.
Mm.
And if warrior is seeing what hasn't been seen or hasn't been fully seen, because sometimes like you see it but not fully, then deep sea diver is feeling what
Mm.
hasn't been felt or fully felt. So like now you're seeing it, and then you let yourself experience it, really, like you said, sink into it. Now we're not just going like breath and,
Mm.
width. Now this is where we start doing the depth.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great frame for it. I won't
And I,
tell the other stages that it's your favorite. I have the same hard, difficult thing. It's like Sovereign and Deep Sea Diver of the seven stages
mm,
are my two favorites. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And like what I've been really appreciating about Deep Sea Diver is like how like every other stage you go through is really like a building up for the capacity to be in Deep Sea Diver. And like once that clicked in the session, I was like my brain kind of exploded in a really positive way. Um and it's like, oh, I've been training all of these different capacities for like the past, half of a year or whatever it's been. And I can see really right now how each of those different like things I've been training are showing up fully in this experience. And like there is like a weird level of self-trust I had in those experiences and in those moments. And
Mhm.
like I know you and I have talked a whole bunch in these recordings about how like I'm not very good about like dropping in and feeling my feelings.
Mhm.
And this weekend, this past weekend that we did, I think I'm having to readjust that script for myself because it's like, wait, hold on. Actually, I was able to do that. Like both circling other people and then being circled myself.
Mhm.
Like
Ooh.
having that trust with all of everybody in my cohort,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I trust all of these people. So if I'm opening up and I'm talking to these guys, I'm going to trust that they're going to take me to where I need to go. And if I'm experiencing something really difficult, like they're going to be with that with me.
Mhm.
And so I can really drop deeper in
Yeah.
and get to these deeper levels by myself.
You
Or not
didn't
by myself,
you
but
didn't really say this exactly, so let me check if I'm hallucinating or if I'm like listening between the lines of like it sounds like what you're saying is as you are having these experiences with your cohort that is fostering greater trust in and with them, it's
Mhm.
allowing you to trust yourself more.
Mhm.
And then so you're like, yeah, I can go there and I'm not going to fall apart. And even if I do fall apart, I trust these people to hold the pieces together. And so, like, it's almost like this reciprocal, like, opening and deepening of like the more you trust them, the more they show up for you. And the more they show up for you, the more you trust them. And then that allows you to trust more of yourself and reveal more of yourself and to try on things that you didn't think you could do, or you
Yeah,
didn't think were for you, or you didn't think you were good at. Is that?
exactly. Yeah. And it was like there's something about like going into like whatever experiences I'm having with other people in that exact way that you're describing, where it's like that trust is deepening, so I'm able to go deeper with them. It's like that actually builds a capacity outside of the circling group itself, where it's like there's been so many times like in the last like just week or two where I'll be lying in bed about to go to sleep and then like I'll feel something big down in the depths of my soul.
Mhm.
And normally my reaction is like, we're going to go to bed. I'll take two melatonin and we're going to ignore that if there's even the recognition that it's there, right? But like recently it's been like, okay, well, I guess we're staying up until 3 a.m. because something big showing up and I need to be with it. And
Mhm.
like that trust in that process that you work on with other people has been showing up in that thing. And so it's like, okay, I know I can go
Mhm.
deeper than I'm comfortable going because like I've practiced going there with other people.
Mhm.
And something about like having those voices of other people being there for you, it's like it integrates into yourself too. And
Mhm.
so like Yeah, deep sea diver's been crazy. It's like in the group chat that we have, um, we've been calling deep sea diver DSD,
Yeah.
and like we've been joking that it's like the craziest drug that any of
Like
us have
LSD, yep.
tried.
LSD, the craziest drug that you could ever try. Yep. Like it's like DMT in your brain. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is funny. It really drives home. I coined it jokingly, but I'm like, it's a professional training program, wrapped in a personal growth program and then tucked into a mastermind group.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really what this is. It's like you're here for professional growth. Like you're trying to learn the circling approach. But it's if you do it right, you can't help but grow personally. You know, and then you have this cohort of people who are learning right alongside you, that so there's that community and the camaraderie too. And so I love that it's not just something we put on the brochure. Like this is genuinely like what you're experiencing, and you're experiencing like in real time of like, oh, heck yeah. Like as I trust them more, then I can trust myself more. And then that helps inspires other people to, trust themselves more and trust me more. And then we're all going deeper together and we're all growing exponentially together in a way. And this is, where the mastermind group comes in, of like in a way that we could not grow on our own. And that's why, another one of my favorite sound bites is like you could sit zazen, in a monastery for 14 years, or you could read, every book in my library, and you would not get the type and the depth and the breadth of growth that you will get in this 1 year container, because it's the relationships. You got to practice it in real time, in real life. And then I love that you're driving home of like, and yeah, so I practice it with these safe people, and then it makes me feel more resilient and more capable to practice it with people who don't know this, and it's not quite the safe container, but I have that safety. I have the felt sense of the safety from my practice group. So even if I go out and do it with other people and it falls short or it falls flat or they look at me a little bit like I'm strange, I'm like, that's just them. I know
Mhm.
this works and I know there's a group of people who really get this. And so like there's just less at stake, Does that resonate?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I really like how you said like you can sit zazen for, a decade, or you can, read all the books about whatever and still not get this. Like I done both those things, right? I didn't like go to China to a monastery or whatever, but like I practice zazen and I've been doing that for like, 10-ish years at this point. And I got all the books, right? I've read all the books about all the stuff, but like something about the whole container of circling together. It was like all of those things showed up in just the right ways that they needed to show up and they wanted to show up.
Mhm.
And then it's showing up with other people, which is another need that I didn't even realize that I had that strongly.
Mhm.
And like it all clicks together so well and it all just makes so much sense. And then like Guy, you listen to his videos and like there's a philosophy behind it too. So it's not just like an experiential thing. There's good backing. There's like
Mhm.
a philosophical grounding in all of it where I can go and I can read Heidegger or Plato or whoever it is and it's like, "Oh, okay, that shows up in this way." And you
Yeah.
can hold that
Yeah.
all at the same time. And it's been so cool. But like and it's been so interesting. There was a night a couple weeks ago where I was sitting on my couch over there and I was looking at all my books and I'm normally pretty prideful about them, right? And I'm like, look at all this knowledge I've consumed. And just like I was looking at it and I was thinking about circling and I was like, there's so much of this doesn't even matter. The book and like the this intellectualism that I developed. It's like, oh, that doesn't matter. Like you don't actually really need any of it. It's interesting and
Mhm.
it's a nice capacity to have built up. And I'm like am still proud of it in a sense, but like in the deepest ways, like when you're in the circle, when you're in the group, there's like the self meaning of it is so evident that all of this stuff falls away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, then
Yeah.
this is the most important thing I can be
Yeah.
doing.
It's a
I
nice
want to keep
compliment to it, but if I don't have this, this is meaningless.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And
Beautiful.
yeah. Yeah. And then you were mentioning like how like like as you keep going through it, like you build up that capacity to like try it on with strangers.
Hmm.
And like you're out in the world and you're like, okay, like I'm gonna try out a couple of these techniques. Or this
Hmm.
seems like a good circling moment. And like every once in a while for sure. Like you ask the question and then it just falls flat on its face. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. Yeah. They didn't want to go deeper, but it's
Yeah.
not something that you take personally.
Right. Yeah. You're able to be like, oh, not the right person, not the right time, not the right place. And you're not like, oh, I'm weird or oh, this doesn't work. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and sometimes like you just don't even try. It's like you want to, but you're like, this is not like,
This is,
talking to this person in line at McDonald's or whatever. It's like not the
yeah.
the
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
place to be
Not the right
having an
context.
emotionally vulnerable conversation with
Yeah.
a stranger. So,
Yeah.
but
Has it ever worked for you? Have you been able to take it out in the wild or in your real life?
for
Yeah.
sure, yeah. And that's been a lot of fun too because I work in the psych field.
Hmm. Hmm.
So typically my go-to is always like we're going to psychologize with the person. We're going to try to, get in and fix an issue.
Hmm.
Like I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions like how are you sleeping? Like, XYZ. And then at the end of that conversation you're like, "Okay, cool. Like I kind of get your pattern and like here's some tools that might be helpful for you." And then you pat them on the back and you send them away. Kind of thing.
Hmm.
And that took me a long time, like even in the circling group, to kind of break through that that desire to be fixing things for people all the
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
And Deep Sea Diver, like I think really helped with that a lot, where it's like, okay, I'm not gonna try to fix things for people. I'm just gonna be inside of this thing with you. And the surprising part being that just being inside of that experience with other people is what they needed. They didn't need you to tell them to go to bed on time. They needed you to tell them, like, I see where you're at, and I'm going to spend the next half an hour to feel that with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
for me, I don't know if you're noticing this, but for me, I feel like it's such an empowering place to be with someone. Like when you're not trying to fix them or you're not trying to solve their problem, but you're
Mhm.
just being in it with them. There's this like tacit, like communication of like, I trust that you have all the knowledge and wisdom and tools that you need in
Mm.
order to resolve this for yourself. And if I can just be with you in the white noise and the confusion and the upset, that will, kind of like settle like a snow globe. That will settle and you'll see the picture clearly and you'll know exactly what to do. And
Mm.
like for me, that's what the circling approach and especially deep sea diver is about. Like, don't try to jump in and fix it for them. You're going to make them dependent on you. And it might even make them feel disempowered because they're like, oh, I was so confused. And then they came in and saw it so clearly. And like, yuck, like no one
Yeah.
wants that. I don't want to make it even feel that way. Like, but if I can just be in it with you so that your nervous system and your cortisol and your adrenaline settles back down, and then you go, oh, you know what? Like, I could just do this. Or, oh, you know what? This is what she meant by that.
Mhm.
And I think I kind of like took it the wrong way and overreacted. And oh, now I know what to do. It's so empowering
Mm.
for you to just be with them while they have that kind of
Mm.
epiphany or the shift in perspective or the shift in possibility. If you give them a shift in perspective or possibility, like now you're making them dependent on you for shifts. But if you just sit with them until they have their own, like now you're empowering them and you're reminding them that they've got this, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. It's an important distinction about that difference for me. I don't know. How's that resonate with you?
No, really well. And like when you give them the space to have their own realizations and like to kind of piece things together for themselves, it's like every single time I've done that, they go somewhere that I would not have gone. Like without fail. I don't think there's been one time where it's like, yep, I was right. You went
Yep.
there. And
You're like,
it's
oh, that's
always
even
been with the
better than
right.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah, yeah. And like, is it okay if I share a story from work that happened kind of recently?
If it, if it's okay with work and like, yeah, it's like let's just we'll keep it an anonymous story.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, please, please, I would love to.
yeah. So and I'm probably going to get pretty emotional during this. So, um, yeah, there was this is very recently actually, like in the last like 3 weeks ish. Um, yeah, I was at work and was doing case management services and stuff like that, and there was this gentleman that came in, and he was a very large man in every way that you could use the word large. Um, like dressed all in black, combat boots, kind of a vulgar t-shirt. He had a cane and, like big old, like a leather vest that had like some
Biker
biker.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, real biker energy. And he had like the deepest voice like
Mm.
I've ever like seen actually on a person that wasn't fake. And I went to shake his hand when I met him, and like my entire hand like fit in his palm. And so just like real presence of a guy.
Yeah.
And, like went down, I sat down with him and like we started to talk. And, he expressed that he had a traumatic brain injury from time in combat. And he's like, I'm kind of an asshole. So I'm gonna say whatever I want and you're just gonna have to deal with it. Like very much that kind of personality. And there was like he was very off-putting
Mm.
in every way. It
Yeah,
was
you can imagine the deep voice, the demeanor, the size, the wardrobe, and then,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
a TBI.
Yeah, and then he spent like the entire session just like talking and kind of going wherever his mind wanted to go.
Okay.
And it was very intense, like everything that he was sharing. And so I'm going through and I'm trying to make time to, get done what I need to get done. And I'm like still feeling that like that unsettledness of like talking to this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And like as I was going through, like like a part of it was just asking, difficult questions,
Hmm.
about past histories and things like that. And like as we kept talking, this guy, he started to just like piece together this life that was just the most heartbreaking life story I've heard from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And, like just like multiple lives that had died.
Wow.
Um, his children had died in a car crash on New Year's Eve,
Oh.
like recently too. And like he was in a lot of physical pain because he got injured in combat
Mhm.
and he had a really traumatic combat experience. And then his childhood was just god awful. And like he went through and he was piecing all this together. And like my heart just like started to like absolutely shatter and break talking to him.
I'm touched. I'm moved by listening to you because I can imagine other people who are just taking the intake and they're taking in the information and jotting it down. And you are allowing yourself to be permeated and impacted by what he was sharing. So I imagine you probably got a way more in-depth intake than he had probably given to anyone else or, in the past or would have given to anyone else who he wasn't visibly invested
Yeah.
what he's saying. And I just wanted to like name that for you of like, oh, what a service that you offered to this man. And he was probably able to go deeper and share more with you than he might have done with anyone else because you were letting yourself be impacted and
Mm.
by what you were hearing. You weren't just kind of like rote taking inventory, but you
Yeah.
were in it with him. I can feel it. I can see it on your face and I can feel it in your energy, even as you recap it. Like you were in it with him.
Mm. Yeah. There's even a point like I started to cry a little bit. And like I was worried about, showing emotion to like such like a tough man's man. And he was just like, no, that's okay. You feel what you gotta feel, you know.
Yeah.
And like, and so like I was very much invested in him. And I was trying to be in it with him, even though it was so much. It was so much. And like as we kept talking, like you're right, it was like I wanted to hear more. It
Yeah.
was there was so much that he was carrying, and there was like, because deep sea diver, right? It was like he was obviously giving out those like little tiny signs of like, hey, I'm carrying something and I want to talk about it. He's like there's those little invitations that you can catch on to where he's like, if you ask me about this, I'll tell you more. And like without saying it, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And kind of about halfway through, like I just like I paused because, it was like I was getting a little bit overwhelmed. There was all this stuff going on. And then I just turned to him and I asked him, and I was like, "Hey, like, because he had been talking about his wife, his late wife, and who had died of cancer after like 15 years of marriage, and um, he was like, you could just tell that he had so much love for her, and that she meant everything to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and so like I asked him, I was like, "Hey, I just got married, pretty recently, um, like, what advice do you have for me?" Like just really open-ended. And he spent like the next hour just everything that he could think of, just dropping it all. And it was beautiful. Like the yeah, the way he viewed life and the way that he viewed his own pain was so gorgeous. It was like he had said at one point, he's like pain is in the world and it has to go somewhere. And if I can hold it all so that somebody like you doesn't have to, I always will. And like that's at the end of, this, like hearing just like some of the hardest things I've ever heard anybody say, right? And and then he gave me like the specific marriage advice and um from a gentleman who had lost like many people that he had loved very deeply. He like reiterated, he's like, don't take any of it for granted. He's like, you can and will lose people. And so every day is a gift, right? Like make sure that you just treasure the hell out of your wife. And this coming from like the biggest, toughest
Yeah,
looking guy.
this burliest man you've ever met. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
then
what a gift for him. Like, I imagine people don't look at him and go, "What kind of advice do you have?" You know,
yeah,
what a gift for you to trust him like that and to like be hungry for his wisdom.
because he had a lot and you could tell. And like I told him that. I was like, like I can see that you got a lot of pain, that you're holding on to a lot. And like wisdom's hard earned. Like I want to know what you have. And
Yeah.
like he dropped it like from this like really weird, intense energy to like the like a sage, like an absolute saint, right? In no time flat.
Yeah.
And um and then as we wrapped up the meeting, right? And I was walking him out, and when we got to the lobby, he had a seizure and collapsed. And I don't know if I think he might have passed away.
Oh wow,
Um,
you don't get to follow up and know.
it was
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Got it.
At least for now,
Wow.
I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And
Wow. Mhm.
and it was already, even if he had gone home and everything was fine, right? That would have been like one of the biggest, like most meaningful conversations I'd ever had.
Mhm.
And then there was something about that that's like it was like he gave me this ginormous gift. He's like everything that he could, he gave it all to me. And like he was able to say everything that he needed to say. And I was there and I was able to listen to all of it. And I got to really appreciate it. And there's like a responsibility I almost feel where it's like now I'm like holding everything that he gave me. And it's really heavy. It's heavy to hold on to.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like I wouldn't have it any other way. Right. And Yeah, and I just know for a fact, like a year ago, I would not have had that conversation in that way.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think? What's different in you for you now than maybe last year that does enable you to not only be able to hold that conversation, but to welcome it and like, evoke it
Mm.
from people. What do you think? What's the difference?
It's like the image that comes to mind right away is like it's like a really big cup, and then every like through the process of going through and like doing all the circling and stuff like that, it's like you get down to the bottom of the cup, and then like but then the cup opens, and then it's an even bigger cup, and then the bottom of that opens, and it's inside of an even bigger cup, and like the capacity to hold so much of whatever emotional life that you have going on inside. It's like that keeps expanding
Yeah.
and like going through and doing all the circling. It's like that keeps expanding this container, right? I'm
Yeah.
able to hold more and more.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're able to trust yourself more, so you're able to trust others more. You're able to
Yeah.
invite more from others because you trust yourself to hold it and to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think like, talking to that gentleman, it was like if that had been a year ago, my cup would have been too small. Like I would have just known instinctively, like I can't ask you the questions that you deserve to be asked because I'm not gonna be able to hold whatever answers you have. Right? I'll get overwhelmed. It'll drown me. But because I, been trying my hardest to like hold, my own containers and like other people's and like really pushing and expanding that, I had just barely enough room to hold, what he was sharing. And if it had been even just a little bit smaller, like I would have cracked. And I probably would have like left the course or something. I don't know. But um, um
Wow. Oh,
yeah.
such a beautiful story, Cody. Thank you. And like I'm sure it was such a service to him, and that yeah, I you did mention responsibility, so I do want to check in like what kind of responsibility are you holding? I noticed feeling a little protective towards you when I heard that. And so I just want to check in, like, what do you mean by that? And like, what way are you holding it? And then is there any way that we can support you? Because I just heard a secondhand story about this little biker sage or giant biker sage. And I can only imagine what it was like to be in the room and then to be walking him out and have him have a seizure. And so I'm wondering, yeah, like what did you mean by responsibility? What is it like to have that? And then is there some way we can help support you in navigating that?
It's like there's definitely like a couple levels to it. There's like on like the easiest one is just like he shared this big story with me, and now I'm like I'm entrusted with it. It's like,
Yep.
you're given a baby, and like, okay, I like it's mine now. I get to hold this. This is
Yeah.
my thing that I now get to carry.
Mhm.
Especially since I don't know if he's carrying it anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so it's like just like the respect that I want to have and share towards him. It's like I'll hold that and I'll share it with people when it's right.
Yeah.
And
He gifted you this wisdom, and now you feel a
yeah,
responsibility to like do something with it, live it, teach it, share it. Like there's like someone gives you
yeah,
a huge gift, and you feel a responsibility to pass it on.
yeah, pass it on and like not take any of it for granted.
Yep.
Like wisdom that's that hard earned. It's like I can't go and earn all of that, and but I can do my best to like not have to go through it all,
hmm
so that I can just hold whatever the good parts of it are.
hmm
And I think that's the biggest part. Um,
Oh, I love it. It's almost, I don't know if this resonates, but how I was hearing that was like there's almost a responsibility to learn vicariously. Like, oh, he had these hard fought wisdom, these hard fought lessons. Like, let me, live vicariously. I don't want to make the same mistakes. I don't want to have to repeat the same things. Like, it's almost like it's an honoring of his trials for you to go, thanks. Thanks for learning that the hard way. I'm gonna be able to avoid those pitfalls thanks to you. It's almost like a very like respectful and honoring way to be like, I see your struggle and I appreciate it. And so I'm gonna, make sure not to make the same mistakes as a tribute to your hard fought wisdom that you shared with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. And then there's like the harder part, I guess, is like I've met a lot of people, right, where it's like they delve fully into nihilism because they look out and they see how hard life is sometimes, right?
Mhm.
And it's like it's all meaningless.
Mhm.
And they get to that conclusion after hearing a story that's like a quarter as difficult as what this guy went through.
Mhm.
And so getting to like talk to him and like see that on the other side of like the worst story that you've ever heard, right? It's he's still sitting there. He's like he had so much love for
Mhm.
so many people, and he didn't let that get to him and like in his deepest heart. Like his deepest heart was way bigger than mine is now, right? And and so he wasn't willing to let, or he had learned somehow that like that even that tremendous amount of pain was like even at the end of all that, he was still willing to say, like, I'm willing to hold even more
Mhm.
because it's the right thing. And and so have like that's like the biggest responsibility of it, right? Is that like that worldview of like you can hold more than you think you can, and you should.
Yeah.
And like I could see how that can go in an unhealthy direction really quickly, but at the same time, it's like there's a very beautiful direction you can hold that. And
Sounds
so
like
it's
he really inspired you.
yeah, like yeah, like words just fell apart right there. So
It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we don't need words. Like we can see how moved and inspired and impacted you were by that afternoon you got to spend with him. I imagine you're going to be unpacking that for a long time and it's going to stay with you probably for the rest of your life. And through you, like his story is going to touch so many other people, and his wisdom that he offered you, it's going to touch so many other people. Yeah, it's a gift that keeps on giving. Mm. Thank you for sharing that story with
thanks
us.
for letting me share. Yeah,
Yeah,
hmm,
it's an honor to be able to witness it and to hear your experience of him. Yeah. Mm. Mm. It's so funny, Cody. I'm like, I don't even know where to go from here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm full of appreciation and admiration and adoration for you for even like a lot, like, yeah, like you said, like the more you trust others, the more you trust yourself, and the more you trust yourself, the more you open others to trust you. And like that story was such a beautiful example of that. Of like, yeah, as the more you expand yourself, the more you were able to invite from him, and then the more he was able to share. Like the more he was able to share, you're like, oh, I hear his stuff. I can expand a little more and invite a little more, and that inspired him to share a little more. And it's just like it's a beautiful process and experience.
and like
He
you
was
know,
very lucky to have you in that moment. Your uh, the behavioral health center that you work at is lucky to have you. We're lucky to have you. The world is lucky to have you. And I just deeply appreciate how hard you are working to become a higher and higher version of yourself. And like, am just delighted to be able to be a part of, witnessing that and to benefit from your hard work. It's really, again, moving and inspiring.
Thanks, Korenna.
Yeah.
Oh, all that.
Hmm. Do you feel complete for today, or is there anything else you're wanting to share, to ask for?
No, I think I'm okay. Yeah, I think, yeah, getting to share that was a big thing. So
Yeah, it's funny. I'm like, again, I'm still feeling a little protective of you. I'm like, okay, Cody, like I either want you to like get some sunlight, some fresh air, some like, like something, movement, like something. That is, like you said, it's a big responsibility and it's a lot to carry. Um, and I know you have, an amazing, brilliant, and supportive wife. You've got some great friends you're surrounded by and a beautiful cohort. But yeah, I don't know. I feel nervous letting you sit alone with, what you just were willing to touch and open for us today. And I'm like, oh, I know what it's feeling like protective and tender towards you.
thanks, Korenna. I don't think there's anything to worry about though. Yeah, it's definitely doing some work down yonder, but
Mhm.
no, it's like it's doing good work.
Yeah.
And so,
Mm.
but I will go play in the sun today for
Yeah.
a bit. Just
Thank
snow
you for
doors.
sharing that. Like that's a good reminder for me too of like, oh, just like you were able to witness Burly Biker Man's story, and that was so nourishing and rewarding for him. Like me sitting here, it's like it wasn't just a painful slog for you to recap that. Like it was, healing and nourishing for you, for me to be able to be in it with you and witness you, and how moved you were and how inspired you were and, how nourished you were by the experience. Yeah. Thanks. It's a good reminder for me too.
Yeah, like I was just imagining like Cody from the first video that we did, like versus, me right now. It's like I wonder how he would have reacted to all this. And so,
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I'm like, that Cody, there would have been a lot of self-judgment in there and like some shutting down, some withdrawing. It
yeah,
is like, it's funny to get to see you incrementally, but then even to think of like, okay, well, 6 months ago, it is kind of astonishing and impressive to see how much you've grown and how far you've come and like expanded your capacities and your tools and your skills and everything in these past 6 months. Do you feel like a different person?
I do. Yeah. It's like, yeah, like a 180 different person, or like, it's probably not even the right metaphor.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't, this is not like, I'm sorry this offends you, but what it reminded me of is like in the Grinch when his like heart grows three sizes. Like that's the image that came. You're like, oh, I like grew three sizes. Like I used to be this
Yeah.
Cody, and now I'm like this Cody. You
Yeah. Yeah. And like, and just a little self-referential, but it's like I actually feel at a point where it's like I'm okay to hear like, hey, you have some skills that have progressed and it's looking good. It's like I don't think I could have accepted that beforehand, but now I could hear that and be like, you know what? I think that's actually true. So
yeah. Oh, I love that. That before you'd been like, no, you would have just like batted it away. And
yeah,
now you can actually let it in.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Oh, I love that for you.
Well, thank you for holding the course to let me do that. So
Of course. Well, I mean, I have to admit it's a little bit selfish. We love it too, and it is amazing to be able to I mean, like I said at the beginning of the course, like we hold this role that we take sacred, and we know how lucky we are that you guys trust us to
Mhm.
help you, expand your growth edges and confront, pieces of your shadow and core wounds. Is like, it is an extreme honor. Um, yeah, and it's such, I mean, I've got the best job in the world. I like to think of myself as like a people farmer. It's like we get to watch you like grow and flourish and become these like rich, vibrant plants from these little seedlings, you
Mhm.
know. And so, yeah, it's one of the most rewarding jobs I could ever have imagined, let alone create for myself. So the feeling is mutual. We are as deeply appreciative to and for you guys as you are for us. All right, darling. All right. I'm gonna stop the recording now.